Marinaro, the Sick Podcast. Wow, the Montreal Canadiens have a 3-2 series lead versus the Vegas Golden Knights with a chance to wrap up the series, win it in 6 games in front of their fans on none other than Saint Jean-Baptiste Day, June 24th. Joining me today from the Montreal Gazette newspaper, Stu Cowan. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, Tony. How are you?
Very, very well. Is it safe to say that at this point, we can no longer talk about the Canadiens and surprise in the same sentence?
No, we can't. Although they did surprise me again last night in Game 5. I thought after that overtime loss in Game 4 when they totally outplayed the Golden Knights and then lost in overtime, I thought it was going to be a huge emotional blow. And getting on a plane, flying to Las Vegas after that loss, thinking about what might have been. They could have been up going to Vegas last night with a chance to win and go to the Stanley Cup final. But they surprised us again, right? That might be the best team effort we've seen from the Canadiens all year from start to finish. They just played a fantastic game. And they've proven now, this is not the same team that played the first 4 games against the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is a totally, totally different team. It might be the same guys on the ice.
Yeah.
It's not the same team, though. They have so much confidence and so much. They've figured out the system, and they're working for each other. They're playing for the guy beside them, which is, that speech that Mark Bergevin of the Canadiens put out on their Twitter account. Play for the guy beside you. And that's what they're doing. They're playing for the guy beside you. They're bonding, and this is a team. This is, teams win championships. Individuals don't. We saw the Toronto Maple Leafs are an example of that. I think they have too many individuals and not enough team. The Habs are a team, and I think they're going to win Game 6. I didn't think they were going to win Game 5. I think they're going to win Game 6, and I think they're going to go to the Stanley Cup final.
I think they're going to win Game 6, too. And it's a Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro. He's Stu Cowan. The show is brought to you by Essentia, the world's only natural memory foam mattress. Go to myessentia.com/sickpod and see why Essentia is the mattress of choice for many athletes, including over 25% of professional hockey players. Use code SICKPOD for a free pillow with your purchase. Essentia Beyond Organic Sleep. Speaking of sleep, Stu, the Canadiens needed to put the crowd to sleep because you thought that going into Game 5 after Vegas won Game 4 in overtime, that Vegas would have the momentum in front of their fans, 18,000 strong, and the Montreal Canadiens get that very big, important first goal of the hockey game by Jesperi Kotkaniemi. It looks something like this.
Canadians get to it. Kotkaniemi, a lead pass for Anderson, right on the money. He's in for a bid. Shut down by Fleury, the rebound. They score! Jesperi Kotkaniemi gets to it, and Montreal is off and running.
Stu, I don't think they've ever passed the puck better. That went from John Merrill with pressure on him to Jeff Petrie to Paul Byron, to Jesperi Kotkaniemi, the stretch pass to Josh Anderson, the breakaway, the rebound sits there, Kotkaniemi scores it. Before we get to that in just a second, though, and we will in a second, Stu, I can't believe Pete DeBoer took Robin Lehner out of his net and Marc-Andre Fleury. And I know that Fleury had better stats in the season and a better season and better stats in the playoffs. I get all of that. For me, there's an unwritten rule. Your goalie wins in the playoffs, you don't change him. What do you think?
I agree. I was surprised when he put Leonard in for Fleury for the previous game. I thought that was a mistake. I was like, okay, Fleury made a mistake and went behind the net and coughed up the puck. Stuff happens, right? I questioned him putting Leonard in then, but he won that game for them. Leonard won Game 4 for them, without a doubt. So why you would pull him makes absolutely no sense to me. Go with the hot hand, go with the hot goalie. And, Fleury's not the reason they lost. I mean, you see that first goal from Kotkaniemi. He made a big save on Anderson to start. Kotkaniemi, what do they want Kotkaniemi to do? Go to the net. He went to the net, the puck was there, and he put it in. But, yeah, I thought it was a questionable move by the board to go back to Marc-Andre Fleury with the momentum on Vegas' side and Leonard the way he played. And I think it was a mistake. And, again, I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury is the reason they lost, but I think they would have had a better chance to win if they had Leonard and nets for that game.
You remember that game-winning goal that Eric Staal scored in his first game as a Montreal Canadian in the regular season? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I can still see the picture of that goal, all right? Speaking of picture, excellentphoto.ca. Excellent Photo is centrally located close to downtown shopping and universities in Montreal. Ships to all of Canada. Professional staff at the store and online to help you choose the gear you really need. So I think of that picture of Eric Staal, and then I think of the rest of the regular season. At times it was difficult. It was sluggish. A lot of people were saying, oh my God, the real Eric Staal is not the guy who scored that goal in overtime. He's the guy who looks like he can't skate anymore, who looks like he can't keep up anymore, who looks like he's got nothing left anymore. And yesterday, I had a lot of people telling me, you know what, maybe Eric Staal shouldn't play the game. Maybe they got to get somebody else in. Maybe get Tatar in because Staal looks like he's hit a wall. No. Eric Staal with a huge goal again last night, and just, man, when it rains, it pours on one end, but when it's nice out there and the sun is shining, right now the sun is shining on Marc Bergevin. What a huge goal by Eric Staal.
When Bergevin made that trade, I wrote a column saying it was a good move. They had to get some veterans. They had to get a veteran center.
Yeah.
Kotkaniemi weren't pulling their weight at that time. They needed to get somebody else in as an insurance policy. But like so many moves Marc Bergevin has made this season, that move was made for the playoffs. And it looked bad. During the regular season near the end, it looked like Eric Staal was done. It wasn't just because he was playing in Buffalo that he wasn't playing well. He looked like he'd maybe lost it. But this is a guy who won a Stanley Cup. I think he was 22 years old when he won in Carolina. Probably thought at that time, I'll get back again. Never did. He wants the only reason he's playing right now, and the only reason Corey Perry is playing right now, is to win a Stanley Cup. That's the only money. They have enough money. These guys, they have everything they ever need, more money than they can ever spend in their lifetime. They've left their families behind for this season. The only thing they want to do is win the Stanley Cup, and we're seeing that. We're seeing that effort level from Eric Staal. And we talked about Kotkaniemi earlier and Suzuki. I don't think they're playing as well as they are right now without the influence of Staal and also Philip Danault.
Yeah.
And Corey Perry, these veteran guys that are just helping them out and showing them little tricks here and there and talking to them off the ice and talking to them at practice. So for Marc Bergevin, nearly every move he made from last offseason to the trade deadline was done with the playoffs in mind. They almost didn't get there, but they did get there. They didn't start well, but everything's falling together now. And right now, Marc Bergevin is looking like a genius with these moves he made, including Eric Staal, who's really, really played well for them and solidified that center position to the point where they can roll four comfortably now. And boy, Joel Armia is a different hockey player than he was before since they put him with Perry and with Staal. He's become the hockey player that I thought he could become, because you watch him play. He's got all the time in the world, and you're sort of saying, when is he going to put it together? Well, now he started to put it together.
Stu, speaking of Marc Bergevin, his right-hand man, John Sedgwick, of course, signed a 3-year contract extension. The Montreal Canadiens let us know that earlier today. I would imagine Sedgwick and Bergevin, they go hand in hand. I would imagine the same thing is coming from Marc Bergevin. It's just that, in Bergevin's case, they don't have to make it official. I don't know if they have an agreement in principle already. Maybe Marc Bergevin's had it offered to him, and he's waiting because if he wins the Stanley Cup, maybe he wants to go somewhere else at that point because he won the Stanley Cup. If he gets to the final, he's got more negotiating power to maybe ask for more. If he wins the Cup, he could probably even ask for more. What's your take? It leads me to believe that if Sedgwick resigns for 3 years, that Bergevin will be here for at least the same amount of time.
Totally agree. He's got 1 year left on his contract. They're not going to sign the guy in charge of the salary cap and the guy who does all that work without getting the okay from the current GM, and without you have to figure the current GM is going to stay. So I would think that there's a minimum 2-year extension coming for Bergevin, which would be on par with Sedgwick for 3 years each. And I think Marc Bergevin is smart right now. There's been a lot of times, if the Canes don't make the playoffs, you wonder if Marc Bergevin is back next year. Now, as you say, if they win the Stanley Cup, and I'm Marc Bergevin's agent, I'm not going to settle for a 2-year extension. I'm going to be looking for more. And whether Jeff Molson gives it to him or not, we'll see. I don't know how many other teams are looking at Marc Bergevin as a potential future GM. The language issue in Montreal obviously plays on his side. The GM here has to be bilingual.
I would say that LA has to be interested.
It's quite possible.
Rob Blake, great friend of his. Mm-hmm. Luc Robitaille, great friend of his. Who doesn't like LA? But you still have to think that
he's still got that 1 year left, though, on his contract.
Yeah, he does. He does. And listen, I would think the only way he doesn't re-sign is if they win the Stanley Cup, he plays out his final year and he says, I'm going to leave Montreal as a king. In my tenure here, I won the Stanley Cup, and now I can move on. It's the only way I see it.
Although Marc Bergevin once said, if you want loyalty, get a dog. But it'll be interesting to see how much loyalty he has to Jeff Molson, because Jeff Molson has stuck with him when a lot of people, including me, thought he should have got rid of him and got another GM. After that disastrous year when they finished 28th overall, Jeff Molson has stuck with Marc Bergevin, believed in him, and from Jeff Molson's standpoint, I imagine he's hoping that Bergevin is going to show some of that back to him. But again, sports is a big business, and if you want loyalty, get a dog.
Yeah,
I think Marc Bergevin enjoys. He's a guy who enjoys the spotlight, right? He likes the flashy clothes. He likes being recognized. I'm sure he loves being recognized around Montreal, maybe a little bit more than he wishes. He might like to have a nice quiet dinner once in a while. But he seems to be a guy who enjoys the spotlight, loves the pride. I mean, it takes a type of personality to survive in this Montreal market. Like a guy like Carey Price being goalie of the Montreal Canadiens. You got to be cool and confident and everything else. Same with GM. I mean, every move you make is questioned by not only us, but every fan out there, every big fan, sort of every casual fan. Every move you make is criticized, and it's a lot of weight on a guy. And Marc Bergevin has shown that he can handle that over the last 10 years.
Stu, I mean, I've been wrong pretty often in my life, but I'll say this. I always thought that, being a GM, not an easy thing. There's a period of adaptation. Marc Bergevin never was a GM, although he came in with a ton of experience. Being a GM in Montreal is being a GM somewhere else on steroids and times 100 and all that stuff. It's not an easy place. You're going to make mistakes regardless. There's a lot of pressure here, more so than anywhere else. I know a lot of people called for Marc Bergevin's job. At times, I was wondering what the direction of this team was actually where it was going, but I'm happy to say that never once did I go on air and say the Canadiens need to fire Marc Bergevin. Never. I'm happy I stuck with him. I think the last 3 years, Stu, I've said this, and I don't know what you think, but the last 3 years, starting when he traded Galchenyuk to Arizona for Max Domi, from that day, that was June of 3 years ago. So 3 years later, I think the body of work that he's done in the last 3 years is among the best work that any GM has done in the National Hockey League. Like, I'm talking top 3 stuff.
I thought 3 years ago that he should have been fired after. Then I wrote that after they finished 28th, and he had that press conference where he said the biggest problem was a bad attitude in the room. And I was like, really? The team's that bad, and you think it's only an attitude that's the problem? He got rid of a bunch of guys at that. Attitude still seemed like it might have been an issue even after that. So I thought Molson should have made a change then. He didn't. So I've written this, and I've told people this before. There's Bergevin 1.0 and there's Bergevin 2.0. That day that Jeff Molson decided he was going to stick with Bergevin and let him do his reset or rebuild or whatever you want to call it, you got to sort of forget about the 1.0 because he's staying there. He's not going anywhere. So, okay, Jeff Molson wiped the slate clean. Let's start over and try and rebuild. So if you're going to judge the current team with Marc Bergevin, I think you got to start from that period. What happened before then obviously didn't work. For a lot of GMs, it would have cost them their job. As I mentioned earlier, Jeff Molson showed loyalty to Bergevin. It'll be interesting to see how much loyalty is paid back that. He stuck with him, kept him, and now Jeff Molson's looking smart, right? He's looking like this Bergevin, what he thought he would do. And I'm sure they had that meeting. Bergevin had to sell Molson on what his plan was moving forward, and Molson had to buy into it, and he did. And there's been bumps along the way. It hasn't been a smooth ride. But here we are. The Canadiens one win away from the Stanley Cup.
And such a fine line between winning and losing, Stu. When you think about it, some of the things that have happened to this team this year, I mean, they were this close to getting eliminated by Toronto.
They shot 13-2 in one of the overtime periods. And they won.
And if they do, we're not talking about Bergevin maybe the way we are. We're not talking about this team the way we are. Not only that, I mean, Paul Byron was on waivers 3 times this year, okay? If Paul Byron gets picked up, the Canadiens don't beat the Maple Leafs.
Well, probably not, but you wonder if somebody else might have picked up, that's done what Paul Byron did in that role.
I hear you.
Did they not beat them? Maybe somebody else comes up and scores that big goal. Maybe not. I mean, right now you'd say, yeah, they probably aren't where they are without Paul Byron, but you never know, right? Somebody else might have stepped up and scored that goal. But I'm sure the Canadiens right now are very thankful that Paul Byron didn't get claimed on waivers the 3 times he was placed on waivers. Paul Byron's happy. He loves Montreal. He loves the Canadiens. He's one of the very few Canadiens players who lives here year-round. His family's settled on the South Shore near the practice rink. He loves everything about being a Canadian. He does interviews in both languages. There's a reason why he has an A on his sweater. He's a class act on and off the ice. I'm happy for Paul Byron. I'm really happy for him. He's a good guy, and I like when good things happen to good people.
Yeah.
For him, I'm sure it's been a tough year for him and for his family, wondering what their future might be. Are we leaving Montreal? Are we staying here? What's going forward? But Paul Byron, to his credit, took the high road through all of this and just let his play speak for itself. And that's a good question. Maybe the Canes aren't where they are right now without Paul Byron in the lineup.
Marinaro, it's the Sick Podcast. You can listen to us on the iHeartRadio app. Check it out, of course, in all and other social media platforms. A shout out to sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel and more. Use code SICK15 for 15% off on all of their items, whether it's Montreal Canadiens, Vegas Golden Knights, or any of the teams that are playing in the NBA right now, or even your football teams. All right, okay, so Jesperi Kotkaniemi makes it 1-0. Eric Stahl on a great feed by Nick Suzuki makes it 2-0. And then Mark Stone is stick handling, and I don't know what he's doing, but it ends up leading to the Montreal Canadiens' third goal. Play it for me, Sammy.
Short-handed come the Golden Knights. Nice sweep check by Suzuki. Breakaway, Corey Perry. A drop pass. They score! Cole Caulfield gets a beautiful pass from Corey Perry. It's 3-0 Montreal.
I got to tell you, if I would go out and get myself one of these, Stu, I think I would put number 22 and Caulfield behind it. This kid he's so fun to watch. He's so refreshing. It seems like the guys have taken him in like their younger brother, but, not only have they taken him, he can play, Stu, and he can score. And what a play that was. The puck taken away from Stone by Suzuki. It ends up going to Corey Perry with a fantastic pass to Cole Caulfield and a fantastic finish. It was beautiful, Stu.
It was. What a pass by Corey Perry. And a goal scorer's goal, right? The puck was on his stick for like 1,000th of a second before it was in the back of the net. And walking down, game 4, I had a bite to eat before the game on a terrace just off of St. Catherine Street. Walking down to the Bell Center, a lot of number 22 Caulfield sweaters. And I was thinking to myself, I hope the kid doesn't change his number because he didn't choose that number. It was given to him. He wore number 8 University, but that's Ben Sherratt's number.
Hold on a second. Where did you go?
I went to the Trois Brasseurs.
Okay, that's okay. Perfect. Okay, good. You know what? I support local, and that's why I wanted to know.
Had a bite to eat there and walked down. And as I said, a lot of Cole Caulfield sweaters around.
Yeah.
Sweaters, Suzuki sweaters. And Caulfield, number 22, Steve Shutt's old number. I wrote a column recently talking with Steve Shutt, and he sees some similarities to Caulfield and himself. And when I asked him what advice he might have for Caulfield, he said, just shoot the puck, kid. I never passed.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. It worked for him over 400 times. By the way, another great spot is Trattoria Trastevere on Crescent, which is a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Bell Center. They got a beautiful terrace. You might want to check that one out too. But listen, earlier today on the Zoom call, I believe it was Jean-Francois Chaumont who asked Eric Gustafsson about Cole Caulfield and if he reminded Gustafsson of Alex DeBrincat, because, of course, Gustafsson and DeBrincat played together with the Chicago Blackhawks. His answer made me laugh. He chuckled, and he said the first time he walked into the Canadiens' locker room, he actually thought that Caulfield was DeBrincat.
Yeah, that's funny. And they're about the same size. And I was in Vancouver covering the draft when the Canadiens selected Caulfield. And the column I wrote, I mentioned DeBrincat because a lot of Canadiens fans go, this kid's 5'7", 170 pounds. And I said the Canadiens are hoping he's going to be Alex DeBrincat, who had already proven himself that with his size and his skill package, he could still be effective in the NHL and score goals. And Cole Caulfield's doing the exact same thing now. He's a smaller guy. Among the many things that have impressed me watching him, his speed, his shot, his hockey sense, his playmaking ability. I'm glad he didn't listen to Steve Shutt and only shoot because this kid can pass the puck. But just the way he sees the game and the way he avoids the big hit. There was the game against Winnipeg. I can't remember which game it was. It was one of the games at the Bell Center. He came across the blue line, had his head down a bit, and a Winnipeg guy had him lined up and was about to take his head off. And at the last second, he almost like eyes behind his head, he saw him and spun off and missed the check. Similar to what Nick Suzuki did in the game against one of the games against Vegas when he almost got laid out at center ice. So it's that ability to sort of like eyes in the back of your head when you're his size, when you're Cole Caulfield's size, you have to have eyes in the back of your head to survive, to even get to the NHL, never mind playing the NHL. So he has that. He has that ability to spin off checks and not get that big hit. He doesn't put himself in vulnerable positions. He forechecks hard, but he doesn't put himself in a position where he's going to get crushed into the boards. He can't. You don't want him to do that. He doesn't have the size to do that. Josh Anderson can do that. The bigger guys can do that. So the whole all-around package with Cole Caulfield, he's the whole package. As Tyler Toffoli said in that Players Tribune article, he has the it factor, and he definitely has the it factor.
That was an amazing piece, by the way. For those who missed it, check it out on the Players Tribune. Tyler Toffoli wrote a piece, and he said that last year when he was watching the playoffs, one of the guys that really caught his attention was Nick Suzuki. And while he was watching, he was saying, you know what? I wonder what it would feel like to play with this player. And he said he wanted to play with Suzuki. And part of his reasoning behind signing with the Montreal Canadiens was an opportunity to play with Suzuki. And it took a while, but by the end of the year, they were put together on a line, and he had chemistry with Suzuki. And then he started to get chemistry with Caulfield. And now all three of them have chemistry together, which is kind of cool. I absolutely love that piece. Hey, Stu, did you see what the Montreal Canadiens tweeted out when the players were making their way onto the ice yesterday, led by Carey Price? Did you ever have a chance to see that video, by the way?
I'm not sure if I did. I probably did refresh my memory.
You have to check it out. It's pretty cool, okay? So the Canadiens tweeted out the video of the players going from the locker room basically onto the ice, led by Carey Price, who was the first one to get onto the ice. And Price, as he was making his way, and you can hear the loud music and stuff like that, was basically like, whoa, whoa. He was like so pumped up. I have never seen Carey Price pumped up like that before, and it just reinforces what we're watching. He's a man possessed right now.
I didn't see that one. I'm going to have to go look it up as soon as we finish here. That's unlike
Stu, I've never seen Carey Price act like that before in my life.
That's unlike Carey Price, Mr. Cool, right? Remember that preseason game years ago when he let in 5 goals and everybody's freaking out, hey, buddy, everybody chill. That's Carey Price. So to see him like that, but he's on a mission, man. And I've said it and I've written it. There's 2 Carey Prices now. There's regular season Carey Price and there's playoff Carey Price. And the one thing missing from his trophy cabinet is the Stanley Cup, right? And he's in his mind, he's wondering, am I ever going to get back to this point again? I don't think he expected. If he was, give him a truth serum and asked him when these playoffs started, do you think you're going to be in the Stanley Cup final? I wonder if he would have said yes. With the way the season had ended, the injury, he was coming off concussion. He hadn't had a really good regular season. He's found his game. He's playing as good as I've ever seen him play in the Canadiens, and he just keeps getting better. I mean, better and better. I mean, he let in 1 bad goal there, that game 4, but I mean, you had how that puck went. I shouldn't even say it's a bad goal because he had everything covered, and somehow the puck snuck in under his armpit. It was more unlucky. I shouldn't say it was a bad goal. I'll take that back. But they don't beat Toronto. You're talking about Paul Byron before.
Yeah.
They do not beat Toronto without Carey Price. As I mentioned, they got outshot 13-2 in overtime at one of those games, and they're not where they are without him now. But it's not all Carey Price, whereas in previous seasons it was all Carey Price. He's getting a lot of help in front of him. Like defense are clearing the front of the net. They're getting the puck out of their zone quick. So Carey Price is doing what Marc Bergevin was hoping he would do when he gave him that $84 million contract. But he's getting a lot of help in front of him. So he doesn't have to stand on his head. He just needs to make the big saves when the few grade A chances that the Canadiens are allowing. He's stopping nearly all of them. So that's what Marc Bergevin gave him the big bucks for, was to make those saves on the grade A chances.
They've only lost 1 game in overtime. They've won all the rest, and their goalie is standing on his head. Stool. It feels like 93, Stu Cowan. It feels like 93. Anakin Slade, of course, one of my favorite songs, feels like 93. Montreal Stand Up is pretty good. And Rock the Sweater, which he updated now, is also excellent. But for me, it feels like 93. Habs in 6-2.
I think so. My original
every house, every home. I believe it so long ago. And I know got a long way to go.
Who have never experienced this before.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 70s when the Habs won, 4 cups. And I told people when I was in high school, my 5 years in high school, the Habs won 4 Stanley Cups. Every year you skipped school and went to go watch the Stanley Cup parade. So I really feel I'm happy for the young generation of Habs fans. Many of them I saw the other night walking down to the rink wearing their Caulfield jerseys and their Suzuki jerseys. They've never experienced anything like this. This is, Philip Deneau and Joel Edmondson were born, and Armia were born the same year the Canadiens won their last Stanley Cup. These are players in the NHL. They're not kids. Cole Caulfield was born 8 years after the Canadiens won their last Stanley Cup. So it's good for the city. the city needs this, right? This is just after what we've all been through with COVID and what the restaurant owners have gone through and what people have gone through, not being able to go out. This is what a perfect thing to happen to the city as summer comes in, as the warm weather comes in.
Yeah.
So, when I wrote my column saying I was picking Vegas in 6, I also wrote, I hope I'm wrong, because it's good for Montreal, for the Canadiens to be playing well at this time, giving people a boost after all we've gone through for COVID. So my revised pick is Habs in 6.
I chose the Canadiens in 7, and guess what? I hope I'm wrong too, because I hope they win in 6. Thanks, Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Tony, take care, bud.
Thank you, buddy. It's now time to make a little bit of money. Money.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by MyBookie.
Place your bets on MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag/thesickpodcast and use code SickPicks for a 50% deposit bonus. Bet, win, get paid. He's my buddy Cash. His handles, I run my bets. Cash, make me some cash right now. Let's go.
What's up, guys? Coming off a pretty big win yesterday, Montreal, because I gave out to you guys Montreal in the series future plus 300 at the time. It was 1-1. It's looking pretty good, guys. They're minus 150 to win the series right now. My pick that I'm going to give you guys on this show pertains to this series again. Guys, this is the market adjusting properly and making the right moves. I just don't think they're timely decisions, guys. The Montreal Canadiens yesterday were a plus 220 underdog. If you really dove deep into the stats of these games, Montreal has arguably been the better team, not by a wide margin, but by a little bit. The fact that you're seeing them as almost plus 200, plus 220 underdogs is absolutely ridiculous to me, guys. The market self-corrected a little bit for the first time, guys. Montreal, they have been massive underdogs in almost every game except for game 3 and 4 against the Jets. They've been heavy underdogs literally every game. The market's finally made an adjustment. I still don't think it's enough. You're going to get Montreal on the money line plus 125. They don't have much of a home crowd edge. I like them. My number's plus 105, something around there. Get them at plus 125, guys. Again, this is a market self-correction. If it goes to game 7, you're going to see me on Montreal again. Even if Montreal makes the finals, whether it's Islanders or Tampa Bay, you guys, I'm literally going to be betting Montreal money line every game until the markets show that they're willing to adjust the number properly, because at this point in time, it is not adjusted properly. They are plus 220, guys, in a game 5. In the second last round of the playoffs, and you're giving a team plus 220, that's 2-2 in the series. The markets are off, guys. The self-corrections have been awful. Take advantage, bet Montreal until they are favored or until they're given a little bit of respect in the marketplace.
See you, Cash. Thank you, my man. It feels like 93.
I believe that it's meant to be, and it
feels a little bit like 93.
Fading hands, we hold
I love this song.
Raise number 25 to the sky. I believe we're right in the mix.
Sing it that.
Isn't it like 86? Fading hands, we hold it high. Raise number 25 to the sky.
One win away from the Stanley Cup. One win away. Last time they went to the final was 1993. If you're 26, 27 years old or younger, you've never seen the Montreal Canadiens in the Stanley Cup final. This is your chance. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's game 6. I'll say Jean-Baptiste Day. The Montreal Canadiens are going to do it. They're going to the Stanley Cup. They're going to win the Stanley Cup. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. And when they do, a big party's going to break out. I got my Cherry River. Let's go. Go. Habs. Go. Feels like 93. See you again. It's the Sick Podcast on all social media platforms. You can listen to it on iHeartRadio app.